Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It is that time of year again. The NHL All-Star Vote is here, and I will not lie to you. I couldn't care less about the All-Star game at this point. I do enjoy having the conversation over what players should or shouldn't have made the team in regards to if this was an actual All-Star game, but it's not. It's not the NHL's format. For the longest time now, it has been some stars and those getting a participation trophy because every team needs at least one representative. It is not a true all-star game where it is the best of the best going head-to-head. So my interest in the game is quite low, but like I mentioned, I enjoy kind of having that conversation about like, okay, well, who would I have chosen instead? So we're going to do that. We're going to go through here. Obviously, the real-life voting options are out there. I'm not even going to fill this out or submit this. Real-life voting options? I don't know. You get the point. You get 12 options. You can submit 10 ballots a day if you care enough. I certainly do not. But quickly, let's go over things here. From the Anaheim Ducks, you had Frankie Vatrano make the team. Now, the video of his wife and his baby girl wearing a shirt that says, "Congrats, you're an all-star. My daddy's an all-star," whatever. Adorable as hell. I like Frank Vatrano, former Bruin. I'm happy for Frank Vatrano's all 18 goals in 37 games is pretty damn good. Is there an argument for Mason McTavish? Yeah, there's a pretty good argument for Mason McTavish. I would even argue, while he still probably won't be like truly in the running for the Calder by the end of the season, Pavel Mintyukov has had a tremendous rookie campaign. The only problem is the hype level for him has died down as the Ducks have died down compared to the beginning of the season. So if you asked me, I'd probably go with Mintyukov instead of Vatrano. Given the Ducks' struggles, I don't really think there's too much of an argument here, and obviously neither goaltender's done particularly well. I know Lukas Dostal just had a 55 save effort, but in general, not too great this season. So it's not the end of the world, obviously. None of these will be. Doesn't really matter to me that Frank Vatrano made it. If anything, I'm happy for him. But if you want to have that conversation about who probably deserved it a little bit more, I would have gone for McTavish or Mintyukov. From the Arizona Coyotes, Clayton Keller is the selection in terms of skaters. I mean, I don't really invest too much in plus minus. All this means to me is that Clayton Keller is on the ice more than Matias Maccelli. But I wouldn't have chosen Clayton Keller. I think you have to go with the goaltender, and I think you have to go with Connor Ingram. He has been one of the big surprises of this season, and it would have been really nice to kind of see him get that justifiable nod if, of course, we have this one person per rule like we do. So, again, if you're going to go for a skater, Clayton Keller's the guy. But overall, who do I think should have been the guy? I would have gone with one Connor Ingram. From the Boston Bruins, David Pastrnak, and no shit. Who else was it going to be in terms of skaters? 50 points in 36 games. I mean, David Pastrnak is tremendous. Obviously, they've had some surprises on the team this year. JVR having 25 points in 34 games played is solid, especially compared to what people thought he might do. Obviously, the conversation is goaltenders. And, Jeremy Swayman didn't have a very good night against the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. But if it's not Pastrnak, it would have been him. Again, in terms of what other teams make it, you can kind of have that conversation and use that as a tiebreaker to say, well, we already have 3 goalies. Let's give it to Pastrnak instead. But Boston is one of those teams, I think, where you have 2 guys in Swayman and Pastrnak who should be slam dunks. They should be in the All-Star game as 2 of the best players in the league this season because they have been. So someone like Jeremy Swayman gets kind of screwed in this situation, and I think that is unfortunate. As beneficial as it is for someone like Frankie Vatrano, it does mean you're screwing someone like Jeremy Swayman out of a spot, potentially. From the Buffalo Sabres, the only defenseman, if I'm not mistaken, from the Eastern Conference to make it out of the first frickin' 16, Rasmus Dahlin. And in terms of the Sabres, again, there's an argument for Casey Middlestat, I would say. I think he's been a big surprise this season. Buffalo, obviously things have not gone the way Sabres fans were hoping that they would. You have injuries, underperforming players. Dahlin is a pretty fair shout. I mean, I'm not going to make too much of an argument that, oh, it definitely should have been Casey Middlestat instead. And it wouldn't have been a goaltender as well. It doesn't show Devin Levi here or Eric Comrie, and it doesn't need to. Dahlin's pretty fair, and especially to get a defenseman in there to make up the numbers. Although it's a 3-on-3 tournament still, isn't it? So who gives a shit how many defensemen make it? Just have the best players there and have people play defense. It's 3-on-3. You got to play defense anyway if you're a forward. Maybe the most difficult team to pick an all-star from, the Calgary Flames. The NHL or whoever the hell votes on this, the pre-selected option was Elias Lindholm. Sure. I like Elias Lindholm a lot. He is rumored to potentially find himself in Boston before the trade deadline, which I wouldn't mind, but I mean, Blake Coleman's the leading scorer. Sure. I mean, honestly, Mackenzie Weegar, I mean, deserves as much of a shout as anyone. I mean, he's not, top 4 in scoring. He is in the top 5. I feel like Mackenzie Weegar would have been a pretty good shout because, again, it wasn't going to be one of the 2 goaltenders. But given just how badly this team has, I would argue, underperformed, given the makeup of the team, I think they should still be a little bit better. Sure. Go with Elias Lindholm, I guess. Bullet to my head, I would have chosen Mackenzie Weegar, though. From Carolina, Sebastian Aho. Yeah. We don't need to talk. We know all about the goaltending struggles. Freddie Anderson hasn't been healthy. Antti Ranta's been the worst goalie in the league this year statistically. It's Sebastian Aho. Moving on. Nothing much to say there. Connor Bedard became the youngest All-Star in NHL history. This is justifiable. I think the argument is there, even if it isn't one per team, that he still would have made it. And certainly for Chicago, obviously, Arvid Soderblom's been one of the worst goaltenders in the league this year. Mrazek's done okay. But yeah, if you're taking an all-star, you are taking one Connor Bedard. I mean, especially, too, you talk about the defense. And Seth Jones, not much of a point getter at this stage. Defensive metrics are interesting. So, yeah, Connor Bedard, no question. No argument there. From the Colorado Avalanche, he's just been a horse this season, man. He is dragging what's left of that Avs team, kicking and screaming, into still being a contender, given some of the struggles that they've had, concerns that they've had, injuries that they've had. Nathan MacKinnon, no doubt, whether or not it's pre-selected or whatever the hell else, one per team, not one per team. Nathan MacKinnon is one of the best players in the league right now. And again, this whole one person per team thing is ridiculous because Mikko Rantanen should be an all-star. Cale Makar should definitely be an all-star. Valeri Nichushkin's in that conversation as someone who should probably be there. You can have him in the vote if you want. Goaltenders wouldn't really be in the conversation. But yeah, the Avs are a team that should have more than one all-star. That's not really debatable, in my opinion. From the Columbus Blue Jackets, pick whoever the hell you want, really. I mean, been a rough season in Columbus. You look at the goaltenders, I mean, do you give it to Elvis Merzlikins for having a .907 on that bad of a team? Probably not. So you look at a skater, and they went with Boone Jenner. Now, I like Boone Jenner, mainly because we've had a joke on the Twitch channel for a couple of years now where he has the name of someone who would definitely have a Chevrolet dealership. He has 18 points in 29 games. I'm not saying points are everything. How the hell didn't you go with Zach Werenski? Why don't you go with the smart, marketable pick and go with Adam Fantilli, one of the best young players in the game? Get him on that stage. What are we even doing here? This was the choice where, to me, it got to be at the point where you're just like, okay, so they're making some of these choices just to piss people off. That's what they're doing. They're engagement farming by either saying something really dumb or making a really dumb decision, knowing that people will be like, what the hell's the matter with you? And they're like, yes, sweet engagement. Like, what else is it? Because in no justifiable hockey conversation can you say that Boone Jenner should have been an all-star in general this season, let alone the pre-selected, he's there no matter what option over someone like Fantilli or Zach Werenski. No disrespect to Johnny Gaudreau, but I'd take Adam Fantilli over Johnny Gaudreau in that conversation. So just A total mess when talking about the Blue Jackets. For the Dallas Stars, their selection was not a skater. Their selection was Jake Ottinger. Because you needed a goalie? You couldn't have gone with Connor Ingram for a goalie in the Western Conference or even the same division. So we're just doing the EA NHL thing here of being like, this guy was good. He's still good. No, he hasn't been good this year. But yet he's still there. Again, this is why I don't care about the All-Star game. Aside from talking about it from a content perspective. Hi, thank you for clicking on the video. Helps me out a lot. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I'm on Twitch at twitch.tv/Toogie24 on a near nightly basis. Thank you. Also, listen to the Toogie's Take podcast. Aside from that, Dallas, it doesn't make sense. Me personally, I love Jason Robertson. He is arguably my favorite non-Boston Bruin in the league. Rupe Hintz is nearly a point per game. I would go with Joe Pavelski based on his age and the high level of performance he still has. There are numerous... Miro Heiskanen? Anybody? Numerous players on the team. Again, if you got to go one per team, that were more deserving up to this point in the season than Ottinger for the Dallas Stars. With Detroit, they went for Alex DeBrincat. And, yeah, goaltending. I mean, can you give it to Alex Lyon off of 10 appearances? I wouldn't. So, yeah, why not point per game ADB? I mean, again, he's outscoring all of his forward teammates. I mean, defensively, if you want to talk about a defenseman, I still find Shane Gostisbehere to be incredibly underrated. I still think Philly's dumb for getting rid of him, and I think Arizona would have been pretty well suited to have given him a big payday to get him to stick around. So, and then Moritz Seider's not even having that bad of a year either. So, can't really argue with this one too much. Detroit, multiple players in the conversation, though. With the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid. Never heard of him. Never heard of him. I would vote for Jack Campbell, but they don't let me. Obviously, Connor McDavid was going to make the All-Star game. Leon Draisaitl should too. Evan Bouchard, I mean, not great defensively, but has no FD. You see the point here about, okay, who's in the conversation? But remember, Boone Jenner's there automatically, but Leon Draisaitl isn't. From the Florida Panthers, they went with Sam Reinhart, who I feel like a lot of people just learned today is leading the Florida Panthers in points over Sasha Barkov, so I certainly can't disagree with it. Matthew Tkachuk, obviously just 6 goals this year. He's struggled a bit. There's no argument from me. I mean, the goaltending's actually been pretty good. Could have been one of those two, but yeah, no argument about Sam Reinhart at all. From the LA Kings, they went with the best goalie in the NHL this season so far? There's an argument to be made that is, in fact, Cam Talbot. I can't disagree with this either. Cam Talbot has been fantastic this year. It's one of the most shocking stories in hockey, I think, and a really cool story overall. Talking about, hey, Kopitar, Kempe, Fiala. Jesus, Quentin Byfield deserves to go to the All-Star game more than some other people. There are some guys that deserved more of a shout than just, hey, you can vote him in. Can I? Yeah, there you go. I can remove you. Sorry, Anze. Sorry about that. But, yeah, overall, Cam Talbot absolutely deserves to make it, so that's fine. Minnesota, it ended up being Kirill Kaprizov, who, if I'm not mistaken, is currently hurt. I don't know if he'll be healthy by the time of the All-Star game comes around. But if you're talking about somebody on Minnesota from a points perspective, it's Kirill Kaprizov. Neither of the goaltenders are going to be in the conversation, so it's like, oh, okay, that's a fair pick. Not so fast, because there is a guy who isn't quite leading the way in terms of points, but who arguably has been one of the best defensemen in the NHL this season, and he's doing it in his rookie season for his home state team, and that is Brock Faber. This is very NHL to not give any kind of credit to defensemen who might not put up a crap load of points. Brock Faber should be an all-star this year. I'm going to leave him right there because that's how bad he is being shafted in this conversation. And if Kirill Kaprizov cannot make the all-star game, they better send Brock Faber instead because he 100% deserves to be there. That's a pretty frustrating one because anybody who has looked at the analytics or has watched the games, Brock Faber is somebody where it lines up. The eye test, the analytics, they're on the same page. Brock Faber's dope. He should be in the All-Star game. There you go. Easy enough. I wish I could scroll down easier than this. From the very, very injured Montreal Canadiens, poor Christian Dvorak. He's the most recent one who's down for the rest of the season, actually, in his instance. They chose Nick Suzuki. Sure. You know, you could have gone with Caulfield. I probably would have gone with Mike Matheson. He is the best defenseman on that team. He is fairly underrated. I think he'd get a little bit more attention if he was on a team that wasn't kind of average as the Habs, or below average as the Habs happen to be. I understand going for Nick Suzuki, certainly. I don't know. I wouldn't have been upset to see Mike Matheson get a bit of a shout. And then goaltending-wise, I mean, again, save percentages and everything, right? You can look at goals saved above expected and stuff like that, or above average, whatever. So not the worst pick in Montreal. For the Nashville Predators, they got it right. They took Philip Forsberg. No brainer. Philip Forsberg, if he played in somewhere else other than Nashville, would be encroaching superstar status for my money. He has been awesome. Defensively, I mean, again, if you needed a defenseman to swap out and kind of get the numbers up, then Roman Josi is still just as viable of an option as anybody else. When it comes to the goaltenders, this was one of the surprising things that I found in my most recent bit of roster editing. Nashville's goaltending hasn't been very good this year. I don't know what's going on. The defense in front of them is kind of hit or miss. Some contracts that are kind of hit or miss, but it hasn't been amazing so far for Nashville. So Philip Forsberg is the undisputed pick. At least he should be. New Jersey, pretty similar story. Jack Hughes is no doubt the top pick. Jesper Bratt, I feel bad for him because he's someone who should probably have made it without needing to be voted in. He has been fantastic. Luke Hughes for defenseman? I mean, there's an argument. I think he's probably on the outside looking in, but he deserves to be in the conversation of vote this player in. When it comes to the goaltending, obviously, Vitek Vanacek has been one of the worst goaltenders in the league this season. Kira Schmid hasn't been that much better. So, not much happening there. For New Jersey, Jack Hughes is the right choice. For the New York Islanders, they went with the leading scorer in Matt Barzal, which I respect. Noah Dobson should be in the All-Star game. He should be. He has been the Islanders' best player this season, at least in terms of skaters. Again, Barzal, certainly an argument there. Even Bo Horvat, Brock Nelson has 17 goals. He's actually been really good. Kyle Palmieri's not completely cooked, but for my money, Noah Dobson. And then in goal, Sorokin and Varlamov are still very, very good. You can make the argument that one of them should have made it as well. So for the Islanders, I think, despite the Islanders kind of being in a weird spot and a lot of people just being like, okay, weird construction for the team. Lou Lamoriello's old. They have some good pieces on that team. For the New York Rangers, the biggest goddamn joke possible. Artemi Panarin has to be voted in to the All-Star game. This is why I make like one video a year talking about the All-Star game, and it's always about how goddamn stupid it is. Ridiculous. Now, it's Shesterkin who's in. Again, save percentages and everything. I know Quick's only played 13 games. We said Lyon only played 10. Shesterkin's in off of reputation. He's not in off of his performance this season. He is in there based off of reputation. And given that we have looked at a couple of teams here where it's like, oh shit, maybe that guy could have made it. The Florida Panthers, Bobrovsky, Stolars, both deserve to be in there more. So Panarin got shafted on this. For the Ottawa Senators, it's obviously not going to be one of the two goaltenders. That's been brutal. And I mean, for the Sens, they put in Brady Tkachuk. It's off. It's for name value. He has not been the best player on that team. It is Tim Stützle for the fact that he is the leading point getter on the team, and he's a very, very well-rounded player. If you want, I would have gone with Claude Giroux. Just as much of a shout as anybody else. And you kind of tip the cap to saying like, oh shit, this is one of the most underappreciated players of his era. He has always, and it's understandable, been overshadowed by Crosby, by Ovechkin, etc., especially having played the majority of his career in the Metro Division. Claude Giroux is one of the best players of his era, and it would have been nice to see him get a shout here, and he deserved that shout over Brady Tkachuk. It's dumb. That's why we don't talk about it. From the Philadelphia Flyers, they went with their leading scorer in Travis Konechny. It's fine. I mean, again, now Sean Couturier might be in the running for the Masterton this year. You know, the comeback efforts that he's had. Defensively, I mean, I know he's not great defensively, but Travis Sanheim could have been in the conversation if you wanted the right forward defense balance. When it comes to goaltenders, I don't really know how Shesterkin makes it and Carter Hart doesn't. Just saying. Especially, too, if you have Carter Hart and Artemi Panarin, Travis Konechny, Igor Shesterkin, you go with that twosome on that side. So, the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby is in. And you know what? He had a 3-point night tonight against the Bruins. It's Sidney Crosby. I can't really disagree with it. I think, obviously, Jake Gensel gets a little bit shafted in this conversation. You know, Erik Karlsson had 100 goddamn points recently, and he has 24 in 36 games, which isn't great. In terms of goaltending, though, how is Shesterkin in over Tristan Jarry? Oh, that's right. Or, yeah, that's right. It's because we have a shit format for this All-Star game, don't we? Because somehow the NHL thinks that what's more appealing is every team having a representative as opposed to the premise of seeing the best players play the best, even if we know that in the All-Star game, people just don't really try all that hard. Or, you know, if they're like Ovi 10 years ago, they get absolutely blasted the night before. And again, 12 games. Nedeljkovic has been amazing, though. There's quite a few options on the Pittsburgh Penguins. I can't disagree with Sidney Crosby. Now, will he go to the game? That's the real question. We'll see. For the San Jose Sharks, I mean, Jesus Christ. If there was ever a team where it's like, okay, let's just not even bother. They went with Tomas Hertl, which is fine. I think Mikael Granlund had just as good of an option, but they're like, oh God, we can't say Mikael Granlund's an all-star. So they picked Tomas Hertl. This is one of those teams where it's just like, Jesus Christ, really? Really? Every team needs a representative, huh? I'm sure most Sharks fans like, yeah, we've seen enough of these guys. I want to see some, you know, I want to see some of the best against the best here while I continue to have to watch my team tank and try to get Macklin Celebrini. For Seattle, they chose Oliver Bjorkstrand, which I'm happy as a Bjorkstrand fan. I think he's been one of the more underrated players of the last, 5 years or so. I thought he was a great pickup for Seattle for how cheap they got him. Vince Dunn, one of the best offensive defensemen in the NHL right now. Would have been nice to see him get a shout, but in terms of skaters and production, I mean, yeah, you're looking at Bjorkstrand. However, Joey Daccord, and it's not even recency bias because he just got the first Winter Classic shutout ever. How is Joey Daccord not in the All-Star game for the Kraken? It's so stupid. I'm telling you, they do it intentionally. It's great for me because I get to make content about it and sound smart because I'm like, EA stupid. That's just a natural Freudian slip there. But people get to say, NHL stupid. And I get to be like, yeah, NHL stupid. They're like, yeah, NHL stupid. So, because we all know the NHL's fucking stupid. From the St. Louis Blues, they went the leading scorer in Robert Thomas. No disagreement there whatsoever. In terms of goaltenders, and again, only 14 games for Joel Hofer, so I mean, you could have made some sort of argument there, but even then there would have been other goalies like Nedeljkovic who were even more deserving. Different conference, different division, I am well aware. But yeah, the choice of Robert Thomas is right on the money. For the Tampa Bay Lightning, thank God, Nikita Kucherov was the selection. Jesus. Obviously, you get into the conversation, though, about dudes that have to be voted in that shouldn't have to be voted in. It's those three of Point, Hedman, and Steven Stamkos. Kind of ridiculous. They have to be voided? They got to be voided in. And then goaltending-wise, I'm shocked they didn't send Andrei Vasilevsky, even though he doesn't deserve to be there for the season. So, thank God they put Kucherov there. We get to another team where someone gets absolutely shafted. William Nylander, absolutely shafted is the only way to put it by this system. Mitch Marner, I think, would be in that conversation with other people that I've kind of mentioned that are in the mix. Morgan Riley could make up some numbers defensively, and then goaltending-wise, Joseph Woll limited to 15 games due to injury. Had Joseph Woll played in the majority of the games and not gotten injured, I think he probably would have had a really good shout of getting voted in. He might still get voted in. But yeah, the fact that William Nylander isn't in automatically. Austin Matthews deserves to be there, by the way, too. 30 goals in 35 games. Fucking gross, but stupid system. Speaking of the stupid system, JT Miller has 50 points and he has to get voted in to the All-Star game, which is supposed to be the best of the best up to that point of the regular season. Quinn Hughes deserves to make it. Pettersson deserves to make it. There's an argument for Brock Besser to make it. There's an argument for Philip Hronek to make it. In goal, Thatcher Demko and Casey DeSmith both have to be voted in. Stupid. The system sucks, and I hate it. Vegas Golden Knights, Jack Eichel is voted in. It's fine. Him or Mark Stone pretty much is what you're going to go for. You're not going to vote in a defenseman. And in terms of goalies, I know he's only started 15 games to Logan Thompson's 22, but Jesus, the NHL sucks. They do it on purpose. I'm falling for it. The Washington Capitals, Tom Wilson. Why? He's not the leading point getter. He's not the leading goal scorer. Why? In terms of goalies, I know he's only played 15 games. Get Charlie Lindgren in there. Did I put him in there as a... Okay, there's 4 goalie spots. That's what it is. Get Charlie Lindgren in there. For fuck's sake. What are we doing? Or send Ovi, even though he doesn't deserve it because he's cooked and it's hilarious. Stupid. NHL sucks. And then the Winnipeg Jets. They ended up sending Connor Hellebuck, which, thank God, they were smart enough to put Connor Hellebuck in there. In terms of a skater, you obviously would have been looking at Scheifele. Defenseman, you would have been looking at Josh Morrissey. I swear it's done for attention. And they got it. And I thank the NHL for being this obvious about doing this the way they did to get people to rant and rave about it and to bring attention to it. It's very smart. Well done. At the same time, it makes you look fucking stupid. It does. It makes you look incredibly dumb. Where hockey fans have to unite and say, isn't it stupid that Artemi Panarin's not in? Instead of actually having fun with the process and having the fun conversation about, oh shit, who should be in there? Because Panarin, Nylander, all these guys were already in there, so that's fine. But then you get down to the nitty gritty, and it's like, shit, Stamkos or Robertson? Different conferences, but still, there's an argument for Mika Zibanejad. But what about Mark Stone? There's so many different options. I don't know if that follow alert from Twitch just popped up for anybody else, but it popped up for me, so that'll be fun. The NHL's dumb. The NHL's stupid. Let me know your thoughts. Happy New Year.